Hi, I am Keith Haddock. I am with the Center for Fire, Rescue, and EMS Health Research. And in the talk today, I'm going to go over alcohol and tobacco use among female firefighters in our really large cohort that we had. Um, these two products are interesting because they are legal for most adults to use, and yet they cause a lot of health issues and a lot of harm among people. So we wanted to look at how much are female firefighters using these two products. Now, this is what we examined. First of all, we looked at smoking status, and we used the traditional categories, non or never smokers, people who never had a puff in their life, experimental smokers and ex-smokers. Now, the difference in experimental and current smokers is that current smokers have smoked at least 100 cigarettes in their lifetime, but both experimental and current smokers have smoked recently. For alcohol use, we looked at anybody who had had a drink and then how much, and we also looked at binge drinking. And for women, binge drinking is defined as having four or more drinks during a 2-hour period. Now, binge drinking is a particularly harmful form of drinking, so we wanted to make sure we focused in on that. In terms of cigarette use, how much are women smoking in the fire service? And the answer to that, for the most part, particularly among career firefighters, is not much. I think the fire service has done a particularly good job of combating cigarette smoking in its ranks. If you look at and really focus in on the women who are in the career service, I'm looking at right here. 4.2% are current smokers. That's a very, very small rate. Wish it was zero, but it's a small rate compared to the public, as we'll see in a second. A lot more, three times the rate of women in the volunteer fire service smoke. So that's a little more alarming. And you can see that a considerable number of female firefighters are experimental smokers. And that means they've smoked recently, but they haven't smoked 100 cigarettes in their lifetime. And it's actually, can be dangerous for somebody over the age of 18 because most people don't start doing that, don't start smoking after the age of 18. If you want to compare female firefighters with other groups, the one in red there is probably the most relevant group to compare them to, and that's female adults in the US. What is their rate of smoking? Now, that's not a completely comparable rate because firefighters don't follow the whole range of age, and in the US population, um, females can go way into their 90s. So, but it's a pretty good comparison, and you can see that career female firefighters have a rate of smoking that's far lower than the population of females in the U.S. However, volunteers have slightly higher, not a lot higher, but slightly higher, which is alarming. So it's a good news for the career fire service, like it'd be zero, but that's still good news. Not so good news for the volunteer fire service. So with that good news about, mostly good news about cigarette smoking, there's some bad news, and that is alcohol. Probably not a surprise to any of you that alcohol and the fire service have had, a relationship over the years, and a lot of things and social events in the fire service are at least somewhat defined by also using alcohol. And we've published a lot on this topic, and it's a topic that's really alarmed us about the fire service, and that is alcohol use. You can even see, I pulled this off of Amazon, but there's such a ton of products out there, even beers that are designed specifically for firefighters are to, in a way to encourage firefighters to see alcohol as part of the fire service. But before I get into exactly how much female firefighters are drinking, let's define some terms. For heavy drinking, you can see that anything greater than one drink a day for women is considered heavy, at least not moderate. May surprise you, but that is it. And by heavy, what that means is you start seeing medical problems above that amount of alcohol intake. And then binge drinking, that's a particularly harmful form of drinking. For women, that's four or more drinks in a 2-hour period. For men, it's 5. And critical to thinking about how much you drink is how much is a drink according to these definitions, and that's where the figure on the left there is. And you can see the thing I like to use is the wine, because people are usually pretty surprised at what a serving of wine is, and it's 5 ounces. And try sometime, take a wine glass and fill it with 5 ounces of wine, and you'll see it's not as much as you think. It's not a huge goblet full. A lot of times a large goblet full is really 3 to 4 drinks. So how much are female firefighters drinking? Well, this is where the bad news situation comes in. You can see that we broke out 2 from 3 or more just to show you how many are on the edge there, but a large, over half really in some groups of female firefighters are drinking heavy, both in the volunteer and the career fire service. That's a very alarming thing because heavy drinking comes with just a number of problems, including making problems that are already epidemic in the fire service worse, like cardiovascular disease or like sleep problems. Um, when you look at them broken down by years of service, you can see that it's, really the only surprising thing is the number of firefighters in the 8 to 12 year range who are abstinent. Not really sure why that is, but otherwise it's a pretty consistent, particularly for the volunteer fire service across years of service. So people are drinking throughout their career, really is the message there. Well, if you look at binge drinking, you can see that it's an even scarier picture. And if you look at the far left under firefighter, you can see that huge percentages of female firefighters report drinking 4 more drinks in a 2-hour period in the past month. That's a very, very high rate. To give you some context, you can see at the bottom there, the CDC says approximately 13% of females nationally have binge drank in the past 30 days. And you can see that among firefighters, it's way above that. And remember, again, binge drinking is one of the most harmful ways of drinking. And in this side, you can see how many times. Are they just doing it once a month? Or, is it just a party once a month? No, they're doing it multiple times a month. You can see this is just the average number of binges they've had in the past month. And just the average, which means that among firefighters, half are more than 3 times a month, so almost once a week. So that's a really particularly alarming amount of binge drinking that is occurring among female firefighters. So in conclusion, while the rate of cigarette smoking is relatively low among career firefighters, it's pretty high among volunteer firefighters. And given that smoking remains the single largest preventable cause of death in the US, I really truly believe that creating a tobacco-free fire service should be a goal of your health promotion efforts. And also, and the more alarming is that similar to male firefighters, heavy and binge drinking is at epidemic proportions among female firefighters. And we know that alcohol exacerbates many of the other health challenges that firefighters face. And we, as a group, are currently developing a training intervention to address this critical issue in the fire service. And we're looking forward to rolling that out and getting your feedback on it. And I want to thank you for listening to the talk. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask one of us or to, my apologies, feel free to ask one of us or to email me.